He took it to Iraq. Okay, we are live. Okay. Today's the title of today's year is Vagisa B'Yom and V'Layla. We're going to learn day and night. Zok Heilige Gemara. Oh, that's right. Today's year is sponsored by the Menzalewski family, by Dovi and Devi Menzalewski. The Ilu Nishmis, the legend, Rabbi Avram Pearl, Zechatzaddik Levracha, Rabbi Avram Ben, we have Yisrael Moshe. Who doesn't remember of Avram Pearl? He was one of the pillars of Toronto. They don't make him like they used to. His neshama he should have an aliyah, and he should be a male tziocher to the entire Pearl family and entire city of Toronto. We should all be zoichet to quality on the table, with pearls on the label. Zok the Heilige Gemara. Rabbi Huda Machshir B'Katan. So yesterday or Friday, we learned about the three approaches to a cherish. Either a cherish l'chatchila could lein Megillah, could say Krishma, could make Truma, because you don't have to be able to hear what the words that you're saying. Or like Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that l'chatchila, a cherish shouldn't do these things, but for the Eved it's kosher. Or Rabbi Yosy, who holds that even with the Eved, a cherish that leins Megillah is possible, can't make Krishma, can't be Krishma, can't make Truma. Okay, so let's start from the two dots now. Rabbi Yehuda Machshir B'Katan, Yehuda holds that a cotton, your Gemara is over here. Rabbi Yehuda says that a cotton is kosher to lein the Megillah. It's not we learned. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, cotton ha'yisi. I remember back in the day when I was a cotton. The karise lefnei Rab Tarfon is what the Tzionim say. And I remember I leined the Megillah by Rab Tarfon. Who's a kid?
I told Daddy the wrong thing for Yosy Simon. I don't know if he wants to.
So Mamela, it's obviously allowed because I learned it when I was a cotton, and Tarfon was there, Canaan were there. Amr Loi, they told him back, you're saying a story about what happened to you when you were a child. Ein Mavi and Rayim in a cotton. Even though now you're an adult, you're not believed to say what happened to you when you were a child. The reason, I guess, would be is because when you were a child, you didn't have an amonis. So maybe you didn't see it right. And maybe your memory is remembering something that you saw through the eyes of a cotton that wouldn't be accurate. So even though you're a gadol today, you're not neman on testimony that you witnessed when you were a cotton. Tanya, Amar Rebbe, cotton ayisi, I was a cotton. V'karise, Lamaila, Rabbi Yehuda. And I read it in front of Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda had no problem with it. Amar Lo, they told Rebbe, Ein Mevin Rayim and Amater. Of course, Rabbi Yehuda wouldn't comment on that. Rabbi Yehuda holds Machshir B'Katan. So what's the raya? We're trying to see if that's halacha.
But he's the same problem. He's also saying he ate us about when he was a cotton.
Correct, Gemara, but Lemer Ein Mevin Rayim and Amater. Why didn't we have the same taina? Chaim Tzvi, you're mamish gevaltik. Zok Gemara, you're right. That was also a good taina. Chada v'oid kamrulay. They had one taina that you can't be right from Rabbi Yehuda, and in fact, the other taina is that a cotton. If you start when you're a cotton, you're not neman to say ages on it, even though now you're an adult. Chada the cotton yisa, Lloyd, I feel a god lo yisa, a mavini raya min amatir. You can't bring a raya from someone who's matir. So therefore, it's not a raya. Okay, Dr. Heilige Gemara. Dr. Heilige Mishnah Vayter. Ein karnis a Megillah. You're not allowed to read the Megillah. The Megillah has to be learned by day. So the question is, when does the day start? So ein karnis a Megillah, you can't learn the Megillah. V'loi mal and Mila again has to be done by day. V'loi tovlin. Rashi learns tefillah means after you were spritzed with the mayim of the paraduma, then you would have to tovl. So that tefillah again has to be by day. V'loi mazin, and you're not allowed to spray from the paraduma.
Thank you.
V'chein shemeres yoim keneged yoim, and as well as shemeres yoim keneged yoim, which is very interesting. Why the Mishnah itemizes shemeres yoim keneged yoim? What's it different than the tefillah of any person who needs tefillah? And the Gemara is going to talk about why the Mishnah had a reason to specifically address a shemeres yoim keneged yoim. Loi sitbal, she shouldn't tovel at shetana tzachama until nights, because that's when the day starts. Zok the Mishnah, but the day starts earlier. If you did all these things after Alois HaShachar, b'di'evet it's kosher. And Rashi tells us, you know why? Really, the day starts by Alois. So why don't we do everything by Alois? Since not everybody can tell exactly when Aloy starts, Netzachama is very clear when the sun comes up. But Aloy, it starts getting light, you don't know exactly when it is. Therefore, Tzrichen Lahamtin Ad Netzacham. So come to Chosh, really the best way to daven Kavasikin is to daven by Alois. We wait for Netzachama because we want to make sure it's not too early. We also want to say Krishma after Alois. We want Krishma to be done during the day. But really the day starts by Alois Shachar. No, it's not discussing Tefillah, that's right. That's right, very good. Zog the Heilige Gemara Vati. Let's see what the Gemara says. Minolam, how do you know that the Megillah must be lain by day? After Netzachama. The Omakra, by Yom Ha'ela, these days referring to the days of the Megillah, Nizkarin, Vanasan. It says Yom Ha'ela. So we learn from there, B'Yom in Balayla Lay. Zog the Gemara, now that we're saying from our Mishnah, that Kriyas Megillah, you're only Yotze if you lane it by day. This contradicts what Rabbi Shua ben Levi said. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, you see, there's a mitzvah to lane the Megillah by Laila. Based on our Mishnah that you're only Yotze if you lane the Megillah by Yom, how could you lane the Megillah by Laila? So Gemara, no, Kika Tani Ad Yom. Of course, there's a mitzvah to lane the Megillah at night. Our Mishnah is discussing the Kriyas Megillah that you're supposed to lane by day. When could you be Yotze it? How do we know Milas b'Yom? On the 8th day, Yumala, on the day of the 8th. It says regarding the Hazah Paraduma, it says Vehiza Hatahar ala Tameh b'Yom Hashlishi u'Yom Hashvi. So Hazah needs to be done by day. V'chitei b'Yom Hashvi. And then right after that, it talks about Tvila, v'chibes begod v'rachas b'mayim v'tahar bar. So since right after it speaks about Hazah, which has to be done by day, it mentions Tvila as well. This is Tvila Hazah.
They have nothing to say on Yuma?
Sure, but Yom Shvi email.
And that was it?
That's pretty conclusive. So Tosfos asks a very simple question. We're speaking about the Tefillah that you have to do after the Hazayah, right? The Hazayah we know has to be done by day. So if the Hazayah has to be done by day, and the tefillah is after the Hazayah, of course the tefillah is going to be by day. The following night you could type it would work. So yeah, so there's a long Tosfos about it. So Tosfos has a pshat, which she also has trouble with, that the tefillah that we're talking about is not the person type. It's they had to use an azoid into the paraduma water. That dipping has to be done by day. You can't dip it by night and then use it to spritz by day. But there's going to be a problem with that in the next Gemara.
Why do you want to do that? It seems so.
I don't know. The Chain Shemer Shem Keneged Yom. So let's discuss what is a Shemer Shem Keneged Yom. We know Midaraisa, Halacha Lamaisa. We know a woman who sees Tipas Dam Techardol has to wait 5 days and then has to count Shiva Nakiv. That's Halacha Lamaisa. We're not discussing Halacha Lamaisa. Midaraisa, a woman who sees Dam is Anita for 7 days, even if she sees Dam all 7 days. As long as at the end of the 7 days she stops seeing Dam, she can toivel and she's ois nita. And then for the next 11 days, she's in an in-between period. In the next 11 days, it's not normal for her to see Dam because it's not on her period cycle. If she sees Dam 1 day, she's tamei, and she has to be shemeres yoim keneged yoim, meaning she has to have 1 day of clean keneged the day of tumah. So she saw, let's say on Monday she saw Dam, so she has to be clean a whole day Tuesday. She's not allowed to see Dam on Tuesday, and then she's going to be tall. If she sees Dam on Tuesday, then she still waits another day. Yeah, we're going to discuss where she goes to the mikveh. That's what we're discussing. And if she sees 3 times, then she needs Shiva Nakiv. But we're talking about a Shemesh Yom Keneged Yom. She saw 1 day or 2 days, so she only has to have 1 day. So the question is, when does she toivel? When does she toivel? So our Mishnah says, Lo titva ad shetanei tzacham. So on Monday she saw Dam, she can't toivel tonight. She has to wait till Netzachama tomorrow morning. She still has to be clean the whole day tomorrow, but she could already toivel in the morning and she'll be tar if she doesn't see. Right? Correct. She can toivel before she waits all day. That's right. She might be wasting her time. That's correct. But at least if it ends up that she's Torah, so anything she touched today will remain Torah. That's right. So for the Gemara, Pshita, this is a tefillah like any other tefillah. Vach. Here's that tefillah. Your Aiden davened beautiful shachos this morning.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful shachos. She davened shachos today. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful shachos. Mit Zingen, mit Zuggen.
And his son, my sons didn't tell me.
And you got shlishi.
I'll find out.
Okay. No, I think you didn't got Revi. You didn't got Revi. Okay. So the Gemara tells us that Shemeres Yoim, Keneged Yoim, has to toivel in the day. Well, why is that different than every other tefillah, where we already said tefillah has to be done in the day? Pshita, Ma'ishna Shemeres Yoim, Keneged Yoim, we call chayvet tefillahs from all the other tefillahs, which the Mishnah already says. So this is where Tosha says I got trouble, because if you learn that tefillah means dipping the Esav into water, it never discussed tefillah. So this poses a little problem for Tosfos's shot. But I'll call upon them, according to Rashi, that tefillah means tefillah. Why do we need to itemize separately the tefillah of a Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim? Why would we think she would be any different?
Rashi doesn't pursue that problem, right?
Which problem?
Why we itemize that?
The Gemara is pursuing it right now.
No. Oh, so why can't you change it to?
Because Tosfos had a problem that why do I need a pasuk to tell you that tefillah has to be by day? If the tefillah has to be after the Azor is by day. So for the Gemara, why would Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim be any different? Why do we need to specially say that the tefillah has to be by day? So Gemara, I'll tell you why. So Kedai Dachamina to have a career Rishon Shel Zav. There's a Zava who has a completely different set of rules than a Zav, but they're both in that classification. So a Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim is a Zava. A Zav is a man who sees an emission one day. So we thought that you should compare the halachas of tefillah by a Zav to the halachas of tefillah for a Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim of a Zav. What is the halacha of tefillah by a Zav? The first time a Zav sees his emission, Ishkis l'Bal Keri. He's no different than a Bal Keri. It says in the Torah, Zois Torah Zav, Basher Teitei Mimenu Shech V'Zera. So they both have a similar halacha. Ma Bal Keri Toivel B'Yom. A Bal Keri doesn't have to count till tomorrow. A Bal Keri could go to the mikveh today, the day he saw Keri, and he's instantly tahor, right? So too, Hainami Litval B'Yom. So I'm jumping a little bit ahead. So just like a Bal Keri can toivel that day and he's tahor right away, he doesn't wait till tomorrow. So too a Zav can toivel that day. So the question is, maybe the woman who Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim, she should be able to toivel the very same day. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but immediately now she should be able to toivel mitar. So Hainami Litval B'Yoimei, let her toivel on the very first day where she saw the dam. Zokamar, we know that's impossible. We know it's impossible to suggest that a Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim should be able to toivel the first day, the day she actually saw the ziva. And I'm just going to jump into the Bach. Mishum dichsiv kol yemei zoiva kimishkav nidasa yiyallah. All the days of Ziva are like a nida. A nida, we know, cannot toivel during the day. She has to toivel afterwards. And it also says kol yemei zoiva. She has to toivel. She can't toivel the day of. So therefore, we want to compare a Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim to a Zav, and then she should be able to toivel right away. But right away, that day is not an option because we compare it to Nida. So therefore, at the least, Bilalya Mias La'avid Mixture Shimer V'Tipol. You might think that she should be somewhat similar to a Zav and Bal Keri, not that she could toivel right away, but at least let her toivel at night. At least let her toivel at night. Bilalya Mias La'avid Mixture Shimer V'Tipol. Kamash Malon, that no, she has to wait till the next morning. Even the boy is svira, since she has to count at least one day of Nikim. Biyamam and svira is biyamam. Svira could only be done by day. Kamash Malon Rashi on top. Even the high echad laechad mishum svira he midugma svira zayin kol svira diyamami. So therefore, she has to. I'm sorry? Well, she doesn't have to 7 days. She's a Shemer Shem Keneged Yoim. But since she has to count one day, she has to count the full day. So keep it the high echad. La'echad mishum svirahi, it's she's counting. That one day that she has to wait, the Shemesh Yom Kippur is one day. So it's just like the sphere of 7 days where you have to count in the day. So therefore, she has to toivel the next day. She cannot toivel at night. And that's why the Mishnah speaks it out beferish, because you might otherwise think that she's comparable to a Zov who could toivel right away. Okay, Gevaltik. I'm sorry?
You're just telling me for every day that she saw down, she has to have a clean day to count it.
Right. That's what it actually means. The echad le'echad. She has to count one clean day for every not clean
Correct,
day.
but there's nothing about tefillah.
I understand, but she has to count and then she can go to the mikveh. It's always a suffer love, achadita.
So therefore, if she saw it down in the morning on Monday,
Right.
you can still say she can go to the mikveh at night, on Monday night, and then count Tuesday. That's the day. The counting is the next day.
No, I think she has to count before she took it. I think the lashon of pasuk is she has to count before.
That's what we're talking, that's what I don't know the halachas.
Yeah, no, she has to count before.
I how it works.
No, I believe
It
she has
makes
to,
sense that you could count that Tuesday, then go to the mikveh. That's what we're using.
right, she has to count first. She has to count first. At least the mikvah yom kula. See, the reason why she can go in the morning, because we say mikvah yom kula. So she counted, but she has to count.
And she automatically saw her after she goes to the mikveh.
Yeah.
she has to wait the whole day.
She's Torah, but she can't take any chances, because if she says her, part of the day is like a day. Yeah, we say that by Shiva also, right? Mitzvah Kula, the last day of Shiva, you get up right after Shabbos. Yes.
What's the purpose of the last 20 lines of the Gemara? To tell us what day you toivel, or to tell us that if you toivel on the day, you toivel from Nates?
Can you repeat that, please?
What's the
I'm sorry. Can you say it again?
What's the purpose of the last piece of Gemara? To teach us what day you toivel on, or to teach us that if you're allowed to toivel in the daytime, it could be as early as Nates?
The last 20 lines of the Gemara is the purpose of it is to explain why the Mishnah lists off Shemer Hashem K'neged Yom separately. The Mishnah already told us that every tefillah has to be done by day, which should include the tefillah of a Shemer Hashem K'neged Yom. So why did the Mishnah feel the need to specify by Shemer Hashem K'neged Yom that she tovels by day? Why couldn't the Mishnah just leave it and assume that it will be the same as any other tefillah?
Well, because we want to know when in the day she's allowed to start toiveling from. That's called Nates.
That's not only a Shemer Hashem K'neged Yom. Every single tefillah is the same issue. When can you tovel? You could tovel by day. That means first thing in the morning. That's not a question. When it says you tovel by day, it means first thing in the morning. That was never a shiloh over here.
So the whole mission was just trying to prove whether you toivel at night or in the day?
The Mishnah was telling us that since the Mishnah is not even telling you to tovel by day, that's not the purpose of the Mishnah. The purpose of the Mishnah tell you tefillah, which we know has to be done by day, that has to be done after nights. So all our Mishnah is telling us anything that has to be done by day has to happen after nights, because that's when we know for sure that it's day.
Okay.
And the Gemara would have thought that even though every tefillah has to be done by day, maybe a Shemer Hashem K'neged Yom should be different, and we should let her tovel by night. Kamash Malon, that she also has to tovel by day, because she needs to count at least part of the day before she can tovel. But really, I'm wrong, because really, our mission is not just telling us that if you have to do it by day, you have to do it after nights, because the Gemara clearly goes through every single item to find a makor that has to be done by day. So I guess it is telling you that it has to be done by day as well. Okay, so let's see the next Gemara. So we're now on Daf Chof on the base. So for Gemara, how do you know that the day actually starts by Elisha Shachar? How do you know that the day starts at Elisha Shachar? So this is Gavaldik. This is such a geschmacke shtickle. We know Hanamili. How do you know that the day starts by Elisha Shachar? So the Gemara, we're gonna soon see. Amar Ravad, Amar Kra. It says Vayikra Elokim LaOr Yom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu refers to the light as day. What does it mean LaOr Yom? L'Meir Uba. When the world starts to light up, which is before Netzach Hama, The world starts to light up already by Eloisa Shachar. That's called join. If that's how you're going to attach the pasuk, you're going to have a huge problem by the next clause. Elamayata v'lachoshech karalayla. Are you going to translate that as the same way? Lamachshech uba karalayla. That when the day starts to darken, meaning shkia, it's already nighttime. That's for sure not true. Hakaimalon, we all know the ad tzesak echavim lav lailahu. Everybody knows that it's not tzesak echavim until until tzesak echavim. It's not night. Night only happens by tzesak echavim. So if you're going to say in the morning once it starts to get light, it's considered day. So then you'd have to explain the pasuk of v'lachoshech karalayla the same way, and that's not true. So we have
we daven Marv after Shkia?
After Rue, did the other. Those are down after plug.
What are you talking about? If I daven after Shkia, Mamash Tzaddik, I could have done my plug. The whole reason why they made a plug meaning is so that people who daven before Chase should feel good. Okay, that's my sheet about Chalamoid. The reason why Chalamoid is such a beautiful time is because no matter how late you daven, when you walk out, you can walk out with indignation. Look at those poopers, because there's always a minion after you. And I hold the people who daven in the very, very last minion in Chalamoid, they're emes tzaddikim, because they're there only to make everybody else feel good, and they're not going to be able to exploit the next minion to feel good because they're the last minion. So they're mamish moish nefesh to make everybody feel good. Zok tehele gemara vayter. Ella umar b'zeira mehocha. We have another pasuk. Now this is such an unbelievable raya. V'anachnu oisim b'malacha v'chetzia machzikim b'ramachim. We were working. The other half was holding spears. Me'aloisa shachar v'tzezik v'chavim. Before we can understand this raya, we have to take on as a given that everybody works a whole day. So what are our working hours? And this was probably less than the minimum wage. What was the working hours? That's the workday. No 9 to 5 and 2 50-minute breaks and a half hour lunch and pay this and pay that. You got a job, you work every day. Those guys got out of it. Not like today's.
But the city was open. When the roof was open,
They worked, so that's a work day. So obviously that's a day, because you don't think anybody worked overtime. If they're working from there to there, that's the day. And if you don't like that raya, it says it doesn't say it's a little different. What it says v'hayu lanu halayla. Let me see the v'hayu lanu halayla mishmar v'yoy malach. At night was mishmar, and by day was malach. It's such a geschmack. My v'omer. Why do you need another pasuk to teach us this? Who said that they worked the whole day? Maybe they worked overtime. They worked more than the whole day. They worked overtime. And they started not by nights, but they started even earlier than the beginning of the day. They started by Aloisa Shachar. And maybe Shkia is really when the day's over. But not only did they report the work early, they also stayed late and they worked overtime. The Ministry of Labor would have a heyday with this. But at the end of the day, maybe they worked extra. So how do you know that this is what a day is? Just because they worked from Alois to Tzeis, that doesn't mean that's a day. Maybe they worked overtime. We didn't work overtime. We only worked during the day. But the entire day are working hours. Because it was a given that the whole day you work. We can't understand that. What do you mean the whole day I work? I work home, I work 8 hours. But in those days, it's unphenomenal. Day is made for work. No, this is the Ministry of Labor in those days said the work day is full 8 hours. And if you don't show up, you don't get paid. No vacation pay. Right? No, the first mission is the Arvis.
That's right. The second mission.
this was the first downside of the clock. Before the clock, the reason why they work the full day is because there's no clocks.
So they knew.
The sun comes up, we got to work. The sun goes down, we go.
So you're telling me is
The clock.
you tell me just because they worked from a whole day in the summer, in the winter it's a much shorter day.
In the winter, they didn't have.
I hear it.
I used to be so impressed with people who got up by midnight and then learned the whole night, right? But I realized that what they did was they went to sleep already at 4 o'clock when it got dark. And then they got up at midnight by Chatzai Salai, and then they weren't good.
Zog the Heilige Mishnah weiter. Kol hayoyim kosher l'kriyas Megillah. You might think it's reason makdim on the mitzvahs. So if you don't do it first thing in the morning, you lost your opportunity. No, kol hayoyim kosher l'kriyas Megillah. You could learn the Megillah a whole day. Well, l'kriyas halal. You could learn halal a whole day. This is what I was talking about on Chalamoid. You could daven as late as you want. You're making someone feel good. Uletkiya shofar, you could blow shofar a whole day. Ulentilas lulav, you could check lulav a whole day. Uletfilas hamusafin, you could daven musaf a whole day. Ulemusafin, the carbon musaf can be brought a whole day. Ulevidu hapurim. What is vidu hapurim? Rashi tells us that there were certain purim that were brought not scheduled times, but they were brought when there was an incident that was machayim, such as a par hel and dovashal tzibur, where everyone did an avera because Bezdin Paskint wrongly. So they bring a par or a par kohen Mashiach. If the kohen Mashiach doesn't have because he passed him wrong. So this par, you have to say vidu in the par. The vidu has to be done by day. Ula vidu meiser. So by the time of beer meisers, there's a whole shtickle that the Balavaya said that has to be done by day. Ula vidu yom kippurim. On yom kippurim, when the kohen gadol said vidu over the animals, that has to be done by day. L'smicha. Anytime a carbon is brought, the smicha, the shchita, the tnufa, the hagasha. So tnufa, sometimes the carbon needs to be lifted up. Hagasha, Rashi is going to tell us, the Gemara is going to tell us, is a mincha before you take the chemitza from it. The whole mixture of the mincha has to be brought, has to approach the corner of the mizbeach, the southwest corner of the mizbeach. And then you take the chemitza off, and then you do the aktar. Lamalika is the way a bird is killed. Ula kabbalah, to kabal dam, ula zoya, to spritz dam. If a soita needs to be processed, it would be done during the day. Egla, and when they do egla rufa, it has to be done during the day, and it could be done the whole day. And to go through the process of the entire mitzvah, all these things could be done the whole day. What about night? You're supposed to cut the carbon the night, which is much of the first day of Pesach, before the first day of Chalamoid. All night long, you can cut the imer. They're marked the leftover chalavim nevarim of every carbon. They'll be marked. If they couldn't finish it during the day, they'll do it at night, and they can do it a whole night. Zakla. Any mitzvah that has to be done by day, kosher kalayim. The entire day is kosher to do that mitzvah. If you have something you have to do by night, kosher kalayla will be mutter all night.
What's the Gemara trying to teach us over here?
What's the Gemara trying to tell us?
Yeah.
That you mean what's the
it's self-understood. It says mitzvah kalalayla. It says you bring a carbon at
Gemara
night.
can actually introduce somebody who argues on this and says that something that's kalalayla you actually cannot do. You can only do it until chatzos. We had that in the first Mishnah of Brachas. Right. So in fact, there is somebody. The first Mishnah of Brachas argues on this Mishnah. So it actually is a chiddush because not everybody holds that you can do things a whole night just because the mitzvah is to do it all night. Yeah, that's right.
No, the Mishnah in Brachas says, why did they say at chatzos? But the halacha would be you're allowed to do it all night.
We're going to find the Gemara is going to introduce a sheet that you cannot.
Okay.
So let's see the Gemara. Minolan. I'm sorry. Until Shkia. Well, it's right. You're Chassidish until 72. What? We determine what? What is day? Allah is the shachat to say shakachavim. Yeah. So Minolan. The Amakra. It says in the pasuk, "Vayomim ha'ela niskarim v'nasim." So that's how we know that you can lay in the meal a whole day. So the whole since this man is day all day. L'kriyas ha'hal dichsiv mimizrach shemesh ad mevoyai, from sunrise to sunset, the whole day. Rabbi Yosy Omer, it says Zayyoyim asa Hashem Megilla v'nis mechavod. The whole day is the time where you can say hal. Ulenatilas love dichsiv ulakachtem lachem v'yoyim harishon, all day long. Uletkiyas shofar dichsiv yoyim terua yelachem, all day long. Ulemusafin dichsiv dvar yoyim b'yoyim. Uletfilas hamusafin, we say it's kimusafin shavur rabbanim. Just like the carbon musaf can be brought all day, so too the tefillah of musaf can be recited all day. Ulevidui parim How do you know vidu parim has to be done by day? So because by vidu parim it says kapara. It says the word kapara in these psukim about Parkoin and Mashiach, in the psukim about Param Shal Tzibur, and it says kapara regarding the power of Yom Kippur. Yolav kapara Yom Kippurim. And by Yom Kippurim, we're soon going to see that the vidu has to be done by day. The Tanya Gaba Yom Kippurim. It says v'chipur ba'adoyu ba'ad beisai. Now, when it says v'chipur ba'adoyu ba'ad beisai, what kapara are we talking about? Zok the Gemara, Zok the Brayse, b'kaparas dvorim akosov b'daber. Kapara could be referring to the Hazas Adam. Maybe the Chibur Ba'adoyu Ba'ad Beisa means he's Mechaper with Hazas Adam. Or maybe the Chibur Ba'adoyu Ba'ad Beisa means he's Mechaper because he's saying Vidui. So Rashi tells us that the Gemara over there refers to Brisa and says that how do we know that when it says the Chibur Ba'adoyu it's referring to the Vidui and it's not referring to the Zrikas Adam, is because right after the Pasuk says the Chibur Ba'adoyu Ba'ad Beisa, it says the Shachat es Hapar. So it can't be referring to Zrika, because you can't do Zrika before you shech the par. So it must be referring to a kapar that occurred before the shechita, meaning vidui. So you know that the vidui of the par of Yom Kippur has to be done by day. How do we know the vidui of the par of Yom Kippur has to be done by day? Because the kapara b'yamamu d'chsiv b'yoy mazeh ki b'yoy mazeh yichaper alechem. So anytime it says kapara by an animal, it's referring to vidui, and therefore we can export this information to the Parham Shal Tzibur and the Parkoin Mashiach, that the vidu recited upon them must be said during the day. Ulevidim Meiser, Tichsiv Amart Lefnei Hashem Alekecha, the Arti Hakadosh Min Habayis, the Samach and the next pasuk says Hayoy Mazeh Hashem Alekecha B'Zavecha. So we see that it has to be done by day, and it can be done all day. L'smicha u'l'shchita, Tichsiv. It says in the pasuk V'Samach V'Shachat. Let's look at the pasuk inside. It says. Vayikra, it says as follows: the samach es yodai al roish karbonai, and then the shachat oisei lefnei el moyed. So the smich and the shchita are right together. The zorku b'nei Aaron is damei al mizbeach sofer. So that's how we know smicha and shchita are the same. And then the next pasuk it says uksiv bo b'shchita b'yoyim zivchachem. So if we know that the shchita has to be done by yoyim, so too the smicha has to be done by yoyim. Uletnuva. How do you know Tnuva has to be done by Yom? The day that you lifted the Omer, by Yom it says. Ula Hagasha. Hagasha we already discussed is the approaching to the Mizbeach with the whole mincha mixture. Hagasha the iskis l'Tnuva. Hagasha, there's a hekesh from Hagasha to Tnuva. The chsiv by the mincha of the Soita. The Lokach HaKoyin miyat ha'isha es minchas hakanois. The Hanif. So you see that Tanufa and Agasha are put together. The Hanif Hikriv, that's right. Oh, right. And the Hikriv is referring to the Hagasha. Now, how do you know that the Hikriv is referring to the Hagasha? Maybe this Hikriv is referring to being makrabit on the Mizbeach. So how do you see anything about Hagasha? Right? Hikriv means he brings it. Maybe he's being makrabit on the Mizbeach. Maybe that's what the Hikriv means. So for that, we need Rashi to step in and help us out over here. The Hanif Hikriv is up Rashi. The Hakrava hi Agasha. The Hakrava, the Hikriv that it says in this passage must be referring to the Agasha, meaning even before you took the Kmitza, you took the entire mixture of the Mincha to the point of the Zubech, the southwest point. The Efshir Loimer HaChakrava hi Aktaris HaKaimitz. It's impossible that when the pasuk here says Hanif Hikriv, it's referring to the Haktar of the Kaimitz. You know why? The Ksiv Basrei becomes V'Hikter. After it says V'Hanif Hikriv, it says V'Kamatz V'Hikter. So you didn't take the Kmitza yet at this point. So what is this V'Hikriv referring to if you haven't taken the Kmitza yet? Umahi Agasha, what it must mean is Magish es Mincha umagia bekeren marobas deremish shel mizbeach. Before you even take the Kmitza, the entire mixture, you bring it to the southwest corner of the Mizbeach, Kineged Chudo shel Keren, near the point of the Keren. And then after you do that, then you can proceed with the Kmitza v'achakach koimetz. So that's how we know that the Hagasha has to be done by day, because it's compared to the Hakrova, it's compared to the Tnufa, which we've just proven needs to be done by day. And then there's the Malika, which is the way a bird is killed for a carbon, Ula Kmitza, which we know is the part you take for the Mincha, Ula Aktora, Ula Hazoya. All these residual avoiders, Tichsiv, V'yoim, Savoisoi es b'nei Yisrael. Let's look at the pasuk inside, and Rashi has two pshatim as to how we learn all these avodas from here. It says, Shiva Hashem es Moshe bar Sinai, v'yoyim tzavoisoi es b'nei Yisrael, the day that he commanded b'nei Yisrael, lahakriv es karbaneim l'Hashem b'midbar Sinai. So, and the Gemara is telling us this includes a whole group of avodas, which are Melika, Kemitza, Haktar, and Hazaya. How do you see all these four things in this pasuk? So Rashi has two pshatim. The first one is the harder one, and the second one is the easier one. Let's see if I can figure them out. The Kemitza ula Haktar. Zok Rashi, the Haktar is Kaimitz Kamer. We're talking about the Haktar of the Kaimitz over here. Shehi b'mincha keneged zrikas adam b'zvachim. So now Rashi is telling us that there's a parallel between the process and the order of operations done in a carbon where you makav a behema and a mincha, and the parallel to the hakravas hakmitza, which creates the kapara. The parallel to that in a regular carbon of an animal is the zrikas adam. Haktaris karmis karmishi mincha keneged zrikas adam bizvachim, and the einik sher elabayim, and it's only kosher by day. Avo. Hekter chalavim ve'varim, like we discussed in our Mishnah, Tanam b'mesnis, Niksher, and Kalalayla. Now, b'yom tzavoisai, how do you see all these avodas from that pasuk? It says b'yom tzavoisai lahakriv es karbaneim. That's what the pasuk says. V'chol hani, I got to look at the ayin because he sticks in an important word. V'chol hani bichlal hakravas hakarbanim. These four avodas, Malika, Kemitza, Haktar, and Hazaya, are in the kalal of hakravas hakarbon, and now Rashi explains how they're all hakrava. Dilu haktaris kaimetz hakravahi. The haktar of the kaimetz is a hakrava. Yeah, but it's also called a hakrava. Okay. Ukemitza iskish lahaktara, and the kemitza is there's a hekesh from kemitza to haktara. The chsiv, it says in the pasuk the kamatz vehiktir. So that covers Kemitza, so that extends it to Aktara. And then Malika Za'oif, and how is Malika covered? Malika Za'osek Achas, it's Malika and it's Hazaya is all one thing, because you don't capture the blood from the bird. They just like squeeze the neck and stick it on the wall in the Mizbeah. So Malika Achas, Vazayosai hi akravasai. And the spritzing of the blood of the bird on the Mizbeah, that's its akrava. So they're all in some way related to the word akrava. So therefore, Zokt Rashi, that it says in the pasuk, all of these four avodas have a connection to the word hakrava. That's one shot. But Rashi is a much simpler shot. Inami lahakriv called tzarchi hakrava. It's just a catch-all phrase. Any process that's required for a hakrava. Akrava mashma, ukmitza, it's mashma, it includes everything. So kol tzorche akrava mashma. It says akrava, anything that's done. So it's a catch-all phrase. I'm sorry? I hear. Could be these are all ma'akiv. Could be they're ma'akiv and hekach. Could be it's not ma'akiv. It's not tzorche akrava. Because Rashi sticks in the after below. But if you were makach chalavim merivorim, the carbon will still be kosher. Aval hagasha utnufa ain't a ma'akiv. Hagasha and tnufa are not ma'akiv, and for that we needed another pasuk to tell us. So those are the two ways we know these avodas all can be done a whole day. Zok to Gemara Vayter. We have one more to do with lashkoya soita. Oh no, we have more than one. Lashkoya soita is also something that has to be done by day. How do you know it? Also Torah. We learned the word Torah mentioned by soita from the word Torah mentioned elsewhere. And it says by paskaning dine Torah, and we darshan ma mishpat b'yoyim, just like any judgment has to be done by day. And Rashi says, because it says b'yoyim hanchila yespana, af kan b'yoyim, so too the process of the soita must be done by day. Let's just go a little weiter because I want to be parallel to where we got today. Remember, we had the word kapara that we learned from Yom Kippur to the Payal Davar Shal Tzibur. It used the word kapara to tell us that it has to be done by day. So now we're adding one more to the mix. We have the word kapara here to tell us that it also has to be done by day. The process of the Egla Rufa. The process of the Egla Rufa. Dr. Morvaiter, Ula Taharis Mitzayra. The Chsiv is Zoisti at Taharis Mitzayra, B'yoim Tara, sorry, by day. Kalalala Kashal of Tzir Saimer, Namamar, Kitsira, Usvira, Balayla, Bava Bayoim. The Ktsira on the Svira Saimer is done by night. Bringing the carbonimer is done on the first day of Chalamoid or the second day of Pesach.
Somebody saying,
I'm sorry?
that's just somebody saying. It's not right. All the other ones are tripping. All my mind, it's all my mind.
I hear. Oh, very good. I'm not sure. Rashi says, "Oh, v'yalaf law." We'll get there. Yeah. So there are psukim. So Tosfos here has a whole arichas about making a bracha at Shir Shomer. You can't make a bracha by day. You can only make a bracha at night. Which we do. If you know, so Tosfos, if you forget to tell Sphere at night and you tell it by day, you don't make a bracha. But you could still make a bracha the next night. But if you miss the day and the night, then you can no longer make a bracha at all, which is what we do. There's only one exception. Even if you missed a full day of Sphira, there is a way you could still make a bracha. Because there was once a Rosh Hashiva that he done for him and he missed it. So he missed it. It's very embarrassing. Rosh Hashiva, he said, "No, but he's done for Ahmed," but he couldn't make the bracha of Shir Shomer. So some Rosh Hashivas would just have somebody else do Shir Shomer, right? But this Rosh Hashiva was too embarrassed. So what he did is he went up to the bracha and he says, "I don't want you to make a bracha. I'm going to be bite to you with the bracha," so that he would still be able to make the bracha. This same Rosh Hashiva was once collecting money with one of his talmidim, and they were knocking from door to door. The Talmud would knock, right? So it was 11 o'clock at night, and they went to a Gvir's house, and the Rosh Hashiva said, "Knock on the door." So the Talmud says, "Rosh Hashiva, I'm a little uncomfortable. It's 11 o'clock at night to knock on a guy's door." So the Haksta Chainik, he's for sure up. Clap up the tear. So he bangs on the door, and no one answers. Clap nachamo. He's banging and banging. Finally, the balabos comes out with his pajamas. Says, "You guys crazy? It's 11 o'clock at night." So Rosh Hashiva says to the Bacher, "Shaita, I told you not to knock." So that same Rosh Hashiva told the guy, "Don't make the bracha. I'm going to make the bracha for you."
The same Yoko.
So okay, look at more about it.
The same box.
The same box.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, the Hekach Lavim Mevarim, the Chsiv, Kol HaLayla Ad HaBoker. It says you can be marked Lavim all night. Zaklal Dover Shemitzvah Yom Kosher Kol HaYom. Zaklal Esuyimai. The Mishnah had a very exhaustive list of every possible thing that has to be done by day. What could we possibly be missing? What could the Zaklal be coming to add? Dr. Mori Lasuide Sidur Bezichen Vesiluk Bezichen. Now we know that the Lechem Aponim was changed once a week. The Lechem Aponim was changed once a week on Shabbos, right? And when the Lechem Aponim was changed, so too the Bezichen, there was a little container of Levaina, a little spoonful of Levaina that was also changed together with the Lechem Aponim. Now there's a question, were they changed at exactly the same time? So when they changed the Lechem Aponim, because the Lechem Aponim had to be on the Shulchan the whole time, when they changed the Lechem Aponim, they changed the Levaina at the same time? Or no, maybe the Levaina could be changed separately as long as it was changed the same day. So Zok to Gemara, we're coming to be marba Sidur Bezichen, Vesiluk Bezichen, that they can be done all day. Now, if you have to do it simultaneously with the Lechem Aponim, then they can't be done all day. They have to be done together with the Lechem Aponim. But if you hold that they don't have to be done with the Lechem Aponim, they can be done anytime, then they can be done all day. So Zok to Gemara, this would go according to Rabbi Yosy, because it's only Rabbi Yosy who holds that the Lechem Aponim is independent of the Levaina, and the Levaina can be changed all day. The Tanya Rabbi Yosy Yomer, Silik es Yishana Shachris, you're allowed to take away the Levaina from last week in the morning, and the Sidur Sachadash Arvis, and you only have to put the new thing in the afternoon. Ein Bekachlim, it won't be a problem. Umar ni Mekayim Lefanai Tamid. It says that it has to be Tamid in front of you. That just that the shulchan shouldn't remain overnight. The dalach tikkun shelo yolin shulchan v'lo lechem, as long as there's no blank overnight. The fact that part of the day there's nothing on the table, that would not be a problem. So
you were just talking about the spices. You weren't talking about the lechem. You were talking about the spices. So why did you all of a sudden talk about the lechem now?
I don't know. That's a good kasha. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure.
He's answering. He said
What? It's no, because the Gemara answers Shalom Yolin. shelo yolon hashulchan v'lo lechem. So it's mashma from the end of the Gemara, like David is saying. In fact, it is. So let me see if the Mesivta says anything. I was wondering that myself. The Chum says the Hargan base holds that chodesh miyad kasher misal tziyoshin. No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I was wrong. The way he's learning is according to Rabbi Yossi, you don't have to replace the lechem upon the while you're doing it. So it's not just the bezichim, it's the lechem as well. It seems like. So it could be I made a mistake.
Didn't they push it from one end to the other?
That's according to the Chachamim.
Uh-huh.
But according to Rabbi Yossi, you could have without lechem. You could be without lechem. So it's not just. I'm not sure why the Gemara is talking about the levoina. It's the lechem upon them as well. So I'm not sure. That's a very good question. I'll have to do homework on that. I mean, let me just see if he says over there.
What's the one you have in your Gemara?
I have a little, but it's Yonim, it adds it in.
Oh.
So what are the Chachamim going to say? Why does the Mishnah bring the klal? So we have an explanation according to Rabbi Yossi. What about for everybody else?
Maybe the Mishnah holds like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi is a Tana. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. Davar shemitfas b'layla kosher kol halayla. Lasu yamai. So Gemara lasu achilas psachim. You're allowed to eat your korban pesach all night with the loik Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Oh, so this is what the barrel is referring to. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah holds you cannot eat the korban pesach all night. The Tanya ba'achlus habasar b'layla hazeh. Omar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah nemer kan b'layla hazeh. And nemer la'alon b'avarti b'eretz Mitzrayim b'layla hazeh. Malahala not chatzos. Just like the avarti b'eretz Mitzrayim killing the bechoros was only until chatzos. Afghan, when it says b'achlus habasar b'layla hazeh, it also means at chatzos you're only allowed to eat the korban pesach until chatzos. Hadna lacha koyla mafreya b'lineder. Hadna lacha koyla mafreya. Hadna lacha koyla mafreya. Okay, shkoyach everybody have a good tavach, a good mazel tov.
Bach,
Yossi, you have time for a question?
Avada.
Okay, I'll wait a minute.
Yes.
Shkoyach, shkoyach.
Yes.
Tomorrow morning
The-
we're
good Bach.
going to be learning at 7 and at 9, and then Monday we're going to learn at 6 and at 9. Happy New Year's.
You're American? Yes, you're American on Monday.
No, I just like getting an early start.
Oh, good for you.
Does anybody remember about 10, 15 years ago, there was a Shalom Zocher, and the night after the Shalom Zocher, Danny Kahan made an oifel. Do you remember Danny Kahan made an oifel? He shot with Sharf from Lytton. And remember, someone was engaged and they had a broken engagement, and then
Yeah.
the engagement went back together again. Remember that?